Functional networks. A functional network is a temporary structure spanning a set of brain regions which show similarities in their activity patterns during the corresponding interval. We probe the spatial, temporal, and rhythmic characteristics of the functional subnetworks that discriminate between two tasks via EEG. First, rhythmic analysis. EEG is decomposed using wavelet then inverse wavelet transform into 6 dyadic subbands. The subband components are normalized for subband equalization, then augmented into 6 band-specific sets of sensors. Second, temporal analysis. For an interval of time, let R functional networks stay active, characterized by their common time courses, or activity patterns, intensity maps, which give the intensity of each node within each network, and average gain vectors, which define the cortex-to-sensor spatial relationships. The augmented EEG data is broken into intervals during which functional networks sustain their connectivity. Our source-informed segmentation algorithm monitors the significant left singular space and estimate of the span of average gain vectors for indicators on changes in the spatio-rhythmic distribution of functional connections. Third, spatial analysis. Augmented EEG segments are passed to the S-Loretta source localization algorithm to estimate the corresponding augmented cortical activity. We approximate the intensity maps of the functional networks forming during a segment in terms of the most significant left singular vectors of the estimated activity. Monte Carlo simulation-based thresholds are applied to the estimated intensity maps to convert them to Boolean maps. This generates a variable length sequence of segments per trial and a corresponding sequence of functional networks. Task-discriminating analysis. Let X and Z be the sets of Boolean maps of functional networks identified during Task 1 and Task 2 respectively. Find a small set B of Boolean maps of functional subnetworks that are associated more closely with one task than the other. To solve this Boolean matrix factorization problem, we propose the discriminative associative or DASO algorithm. Experimental data. We conducted a visually cued right-hand squeezing execution imagery experiment. The extracted epoch consisted of the 3-second planning and execution imagery phases of each trial. Results. We applied the proposed framework to the experimental data and extracted 11 functional subnetworks. The first 9 subnetworks associate more closely with the execution tasks, while the last 2 subnetworks associate more closely with the imagery tasks.